I work in one of the most heavily regulated industry in the world. Many people might consider me the last person who would argue for more government involvement in the private sector. But when I look at the future of the automotive industry, I keep coming back to Kennedy's word and the theme of interdependence. A prosperous economy with sustainable growth is a result of different stakeholders who work together. We all are interdependent. We must all work together if we hope to create an environment where our companies and countries can thrive.
Carlos, when you assumed the CEO role at Nissan and Renault, you became the first person in the world to control two companies on the Fortune Global 500 simultaneously. I know you spent a third of your time in Japan, a third of your time in France, a third in an airplane to destination around the world. Tell us, do you ever consider cloning yourself?
No, you know, I don't think, I understand that in the room you have many CEOs. I think when you're CEO of one company, you don't want more. Usually we have enough challenges and trouble and worries and stress not to want more. It happens that because of the circumstances that came around this alliance, I had to take the two jobs in 2005 because I was already CEO of Nissan since 1999 to 2005, and when my predecessor wanted, to retire, he asked me to become the CEO of Renault, and I said it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to abandon Nissan, which was in the middle of its development. So I ended up taking both jobs. I knew it was difficult. I know it was a very singular situation, but I don't think it is something that you can program, or I don't think it is something which is desirable for anybody. But it is just the fruit of circumstances, fruit of circumstances that led us to this solution.
And Carlos, today is all about lessons learned, and I would like to jump a little bit back in time. When you joined Nissan in '99, as you told us, the company was at the brink of bankruptcy. I believe the debt was about $20 billion, yes?
Of debt.
Of debts, exactly. And reversing the company's sinking fortune was called a mission impossible. However, you cut 21,000 jobs, you sold off the plans and assets, and according to the Wall Street Journal, you made yourself a target of public outrage. Why were you so sure of your strategy?
Well, when you engage in a turnaround, you have to make sure that what you're going to do is you're convinced that this is what you need to do. You're not sure that you're going to be successful. You're not sure. You're never sure that you're going to be successful. But at least you're sure that if there is a success, this is a solution. If there is a success, if it's a solution. And you should drive it knowing that you have 50% of chance of failing. But you didn't compromise on the solution. If you start compromising on the solution, you're doomed. You should not compromise on the solution. And I had a big advantage arriving to Japan, is I didn't speak Japanese, I didn't understand Japanese, which means I was being heavily criticized, but I didn't understand the criticism. So,
but what kind of, let's say, lessons did turnaround give you as a CEO?
That means, first, that there is no problem without a solution. I remember in 1999, a lot of people said that turning around Nissan would be mission impossible. It's going to be very difficult, and we had a lot of comments made by competitors which were not very pleasant to repeat today. But at the end of the day, the lessons of this is no matter what situation you're finding yourself in, your handicaps are at the same time your assets. I was coming as an outsider. People said he doesn't speak Japanese, doesn't know Japan. At the same time, Japanese people accepted a lot of things from me that I would not have accepted from a Japanese person because they give me the benefit of the doubt. He's a foreigner, he doesn't know, so maybe let's wait a little bit to see the results.
One thing is infrastructure. Another thing is, I'm just wondering, can you sell an electric car without government subsidies? Is it competitive?
No, today, no, we can't. We cannot. And that's why we said from the beginning we will introduce it in markets where country will support the electric car. But guess what? most of the country are supporting. And it's not because we have this power of influence on the US government and the Chinese government and the French and the British and the Spanish and the Japanese. They're all putting $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 to support the consumer to buy these cars. Why? Because it makes sense for them. It makes sense. They see that it is unsustainable. They need the emergence of a technology which is going to reduce dependence on oil, which is going to reduce the emission problem, and which is going to offer an alternative for the public. That's why they are doing it. And by the way, you know, when you take a look to technologies which relied for a very long time, I don't think it's going to be the case of the electric car, but for a very long time on government incentive, well, I'm going to give you one example which is very interesting. Why 60% of the cars sold in Europe are diesel? And at the same time, less than 1% of the cars sold in Japan are diesel, and less than 1% of the cars sold in the United States are diesel. These are the same car company talking to consumers with the practically same power of acquisition. What's the only explanation for this is government intervention. I mean, the government in Europe, through incentives, through support, have favored diesel on gasoline, and the market went 60% diesel. That's the only explanation you find for why in Europe you have 60% of the car park is diesel, while in the United States and Japan is less than 1%. So yes, government can influence people behavior because people act rationally on a market. If they see an economic advantage, they're going to go into this direction. You know, it's a golf cart. It's slow. It's square. That's what they have in mind. They say this is a golf cart. Yeah, you know, you're laughing, but when we launched an electric car in 2007, the CEO of one of my major competitors said, "Oh, electric car, it's a golf cart. Nissan really is really making the wrong choice." It is not. You need to drive the car and feel that this is a pure drive performance. It's a powerful car. It's a powerful car. And by the way, somebody asked me the question this morning about when we're going to see electric car in Formula One. You're going to see more and more engines in the Formula One. You're going to see more electrification of the engine and the motorization of the Formula One. Electric is very powerful. It's like having a turbo without the time lag for the power. It's immediate. Okay, so you should try it. But then the second question is, fine, I love the electric car. Where am I going to charge it? Mm-hmm. So the infrastructure is extremely important.
What will you leave the audience with to think about?
Well, you told me that in the audience, in majority, you have European CEOs and board members. And it's always very difficult to give any advice to you know, your colleagues or your peers, no matter what they are working on. But if I, particularly in Europe, if this triggers for me a small memory, I read the book when I was much younger and which left a lot of impression on me. You probably know the book. It's called The Road Less Traveled. You know, Scott Peck. It was a very interesting book. And this book started with a sentence at the beginning, is life is difficult. Okay? And then, so you start the book like this, and then you have a second sentence saying, life is difficult, and if you realize that life is difficult, then life is no more difficult. Now, let me turn it the other way. If I have to write a book about being CEO in Europe, I would say, life is impossible. And then, whenever you realize that as a CEO, life is impossible, then it's not impossible
anymore. Thank you so much. Thank you.